Like we said, the only thing that starts with E that will be on the lines here is going to be ego from some of these teams, as you will absolutely need it. Group Green is stacked to the brims. It is pound for pound, chock-a-block with talent, and we have the pleasure of opening it up here for the PUBG Mobile Global Championships. We can finally kick off our opening game.
Playing path in from the north side down towards Kampong here. Going to see exactly where some of these teams go. Northwest Island probably open the quickest right now as we see teams hop out, send on over, skydive down towards their positions. You also got Alter Ego jumping through towards that northwest side. They like to take control of the high ground earlier on. A very similar drop to the guys from Gladiators, so they're going to have to fight for their place here. Already off the rip, we've got a knock coming through over towards Hatin, I believe. So 2 hot drops occurring in the same place.
And this is what we were talking about. We didn't expect teams to resolve these. We thought that we'd see them putting the punches down early, and already that's coming across. A few knocks established, and this is shaky. This is the difference between establishing early points to start things off in a group versus going out with absolutely nothing to be said blank, and it's looking a little bit nasty already.
Absolutely is. We're getting fighting all over the place. Falak's already down, their star player on the side of IA, and it's continuing to go off here. It does finally finish. I think IA survive in this situation. We got another hot drop here between Mad Bulls and the Falcons. They love their drop here over towards the ruins. Gives them a lot of options, but so many hot drops at the start of the day. Everyone's trying to claim some presence here on the short-term sprint that is this first initial stage of the league.
Oh, this could be ruined early on for Mad Bulls. It's not looking great from the start. Already looking a main man from the roster. Frozen and Zerich trying to play off each other's contact here and slow it down a little bit, keep themselves out of trouble for now and keep their noses clean, but they are being hunted. Falcons, if they were able to take Mad Bulls entirely out of this one, straight away off the back of the hot drop, it would be grotesque. It would be so damaging to the confidence of Mad Bulls to start it off. Like you were saying, that would literally be the roll up the newspaper, throw it out the window and forget about it.
I mean, for Mad Bulls as well, already been down to 2 players. It's super unideal for yourself here on SANHOK. You're not really getting much done about it. Great molly down the stairs there from 6. He's performed very well over in PMWI, finding a lot of opportunities for this team. Another nade, banks it off the wall. That looks pretty good. There is a retreat in play.
Chasing him down now in the close quarters engagement. Zerich with 1, but the trade back is more than enough to get the job done. Getting his back on his feet. And that's the way it goes. Mad Bulls struggling to find anything on the hot drop then. So the ego challenge, that one paying off with Falcons flying ahead, already finding the 4 elims, joining IA off the back of closing things down on the initial clash.
Gladiators and Alter Ego though. Things have gone a little bit awry over towards this side. Gladiators not actually in as good of a spot as you might think here with Matic and Tixi. No meds available. Very minimal HP, so those initial shots will count for a lot here. Pajiza Evos, Lynx, takes down Kiss You from Malise on a short rotate. He's on a very south scout at the moment for this team, but has eliminated one of the players that might have caused him a little bit of issue in the future.
It's a nice find for him. And he can keep his nose clean now. Back off a little bit. Play for the scouting mission that he wanted to be on. We've got a fight developing as well. As you can see, Loop struggling on this one. The compound control working well for Reject Tokyo as the first shots will land. Nades rolling in through the windows to at least keep them uncomfortable. But Loops, off the back of losing the first squad member, do retreat from this, realizing it's not a fight you really want to instigate.
It's going to leave. Get out of dodge. I mean, Reject still have Sara up towards Trifecta at the moment. He needs to come on down. For Loops Esports, an unideal scenario, but at least they can get into Pi 9, get situated. They can claim some of the rooftops, some of those little tricky areas to try and scout out and deal with players that do play towards Pi 9. And if you're coming in from that top side, yeah, you might even get stopped by Stalwart, who are already making their move out from boot camp, trying to flex the muscles a little bit. Funnily enough, I mean, for a Stalwart, boot camp seems to be one of the safest places, despite, as we all know, in your PUBG games at home, being very hotly contested. But it's crazy. At 3 hot drops right off the get-go.
It's kind of what I was hoping for as well. I know for the grand scheme of things, it never ends well for most teams, and it does result in you losing the chance to really get anything out of your opening game. But for the sheer level of audacity of it, and the big key word that we were talking about going into our opening game being confidence, it does so much for you. You win out on that hot drop, you got to think, Falcons right now must be feeling like $1 million, right? They're kind of sat there thinking, okay, we've been able to shut down Mad Bulls initially. Off the back of it, you can play a bit of a slower game. You've got time to ease into things, getting the nerves out the way early, Blank. And that really does help an awful lot. I think as soon as you find that first contact and walk away with a win under your belt, it just makes the rest of the day that little bit easier. You're not thinking about your first engagements. You're not thinking about the fact if we miss our shots, it can all go up in a puff of smoke right here. Now you're just thinking, okay, 4 elims in the bag. Let's coast it out, see where we can go from this, boys. We're looking good.
Yeah, I mean, for Falcons, you're 100% right. They're taking Ruins off the hands of Mad Bulls on the first SANHOK is a really big deal because this has been a place that Mad Bulls have dominated in for a long, long time. And I think that's sort of the reason why they lose this engagement is because no one's really challenged them for this spot. They've been too afraid to. So it's nice that the Team Falcons, they spread their wings and they just swoop on down. They take the high ground away from the Mad Bulls and quickly deal with the remaining players. So very, very unfortunate there for them. Carrillo moves up, but immediately spotted here by Shopper.
On the backup though, the nade that does the damage up close and personal with the DBS, trying to take pot shots as the vehicle drives on by. Not looking great for either side, but the amount of damage inflicted between them both. At least got info from the knock player. Spam back from Earths, connects on the runaway. Not looking too great now for A7, but could be a turn on the cards, Blank. At least being able to put some thunder down range from the high angle they've got, and they do connect back onto Earths.
R&J is able to get a little bit done, but I think that's about it realistically. Both these players should get back up on their feet, but really aggressive play coming through from Alpha 7. And this is sort of what we were having a conversation about as well, Jackie, earlier on, is the fact that you get into a close quarters fight with Alpha 7, that's where their mechanical skill really starts to shine a lot. It gets difficult to deal with. The fact they just rocked up DBS out the side of the car, quickly mopped up a few players. By that point, they're totally okay with losing 2 knocks in. You know, that's sort of like their sacrifice. Next circle shift heads on over towards the western side. Bit of an awkward circle realistically because there's not massive focal points over here just yet where it's headed. Does allow a lot more time for teams towards that northern side to actually head on down.
Large portion of it as well, obviously being the blue liquid, the H2O, that will restrict some of your space for rotations, meaning that those bridges are going to become a larger and larger focal point. Falcons having good control of one of those key rotation angles, especially with Gladiators having to make a bit of a move at some point, could be a talking point there. But already, I'm just impressed with the sheer level of aggression we've seen coming out. In the back of my mind, I was thinking, although we've seen that there should be hot drops, although we've seen that we should see clashes from the start, you wondered if, you know, collectively it would be the approach to don't make the first mistake. You know, all of the squads wanting to take a bit more of a cautious way to open up Group Green, knowing what's on the line here. But instead, it's been the opposite side of the coin. They have just been fighting into every engagement they feel comfortable in. And at the minute, it's really delivering, at least for us.
Yeah, I mean, this is why it's called a group of death at the end of the day. I mean, we just look at the side of the screen here on a little skyscraper. The state of some of these teams is just not ideal. I mean, Malise lose a player, Loops lost a player, Zia down to just the 1, Alter Ego's down to 2. Most of these teams have lost a player already, which is sort of crazy for the first few minutes of the map. You know, 47 players remaining, 14 teams, already 2 teams already taken their break. You know, we had quite a while before we started this game, and I feel bad for those 2 squads who have just immediately gone back to just sitting down and chilling out.
And that's such a good point to bring up as well, right? Because obviously the longevity and your survival time, especially into this opening game on SANHOK, can do so much to mechanically get you honed in. Finding yourself closer towards being able to play in that sort of flow state where you can approach everything with your best ability, it's hard. If you get sapped straight out of it straight away, sat there kind of feeling a bit, you know, disheartened by the fact that you've been knocked out immediately, it can mean that you slow roll throughout the rest of the day. So this is another one where Mad Bulls, once we get onto those Erangals thinking towards the future, again the pressure's on. How quickly are you going to be able to activate that roster?
Yeah, and that is the big thing, right? Because you come off the back of this match, and we didn't talk about it too much because it shows you can just toss out the window. I'm going to keep stepping there. But at the same time, it's like, yeah, you are losing a lot of momentum. You're losing that warm-up game, right? And I think a lot of these teams are feeling a little bit cool coming into this first match. So you're 100% right. It's a massive deal going into the rest of the day. So I do think that this is something that probably will cause problems for our two teams that went out early in Quest as well as Mad Balls. They're not going to feel too happy going to that angle, and that's where you just have to turn it online, right? You have to rev the engine, you know, get it to sputter a bit just to get into things. You might have to damage, but if that's what it takes to get a little bit further into this tournament, that's what it takes. That's the cost at the end of the day. Western Circle still, where we look at teams start to group up a little bit more, a little less fighting going on, but it is PMGC EVOS over towards that northeast side who are moving down towards Mali's Esports. Already find themselves a knock on that side too is a really big deal. We saw earlier on, Lynx even had his little South Scout, so this is definitely the anti-stratting come into play. Getting a quick, easy first pick, then going into a 4v3 later on, really sets you up for a great ideal fight.
And this is one where now, EVOS, you need to come in, mop and bucket action and really clean this one up from the reset you've been able to establish from it, right? You can't afford to lose out on this one here. We know some of the names on this roster, pound for pound, they have got big talent behind them, a lot of history here. So to go down early, it would be a struggle. Utilities being pulled out though. Pin pulled there early on for Lewis, dashes it over and it does connect. That's nice. You've now got the 2 knocks across. Redface obviously very low in terms of the ability of him even being brought back into the fight. And they can just go for the quick getaway. They've actually played this one pretty nicely.
Yeah, it's a really, really smart move coming there through Mali's Esports. I mean, you know what you need to do in that situation is a case of, look, we get that first knock. We're at a disadvantage here. If we continue to fight this fight and try and move into the circle, we're constantly going to be on the lower ground. So well done to Mali's Esports, immediately knowing after that knock on the nade, just get in the UAs and get gone. So very, very well done. For EVOS, though, I think that what you were talking about is kind of the story of that entire engagement, right? They had to finish it up quickly because time is not on their side. Mali's Esports able to actually overtake them, leapfrog them. That north side of the circle no longer is as safe anymore to get in because you know there's going to be players in towards boot camp. You know there's going to be players watching from the valley where currently Stalwart's playing over towards that location. So EVOS maybe taking that too slow there, not being as confident as we might like. Tiamba, on the other hand, sort of stuck on the edge of the coast over towards Trifecta. They want to move further down, but this is a difficult position to push.
Yeah, you are trapped at the beck and call of Blade, really. I mean, even if you're going to attempt to advance out from this, there's utility on either side, sure. Not looking great, though, when it comes to smokes, and defensive utility would be the one boon that you could potentially have to get out of a rough spot like this. Instead, like you were saying, you're just kind of at their mercy. You've either got to try and go for a bit of a group push on this one, swing off each other's contact and see if that will buy you just enough time to bypass, but you are surrounded, really, and it's not looking great. At least a little bit more space taken. Some of the early scavenging paying off as well, with the stims being pulled out to top them back up. But you've got angles here, and they are just at your mercy, Blank. Getting out of this is going to be so awkward.
Yeah, I mean, at least for Tiamba right now, they have the fair advantage. For I8, you know, they're playing with 3, but I do think they're doing an excellent job of holding down individual angles, right? Every time someone else is moving, someone's watching that peek out coming from Tiamba because there's only one location they can really go. They know they want to get over towards their compound. They can't realistically swim it across because it doesn't lead them to too ideal ground, and most likely Alter Ego's going to take shots their way. Circle moves up towards the north, though. Really interesting circle we are seeing here. Stalwart have a massive chance into this game. I love their position here. DXavier might be a bit of a problem for them in the near future, but I think that as they leave outside of boot camp, there is some ideal angles to be taken there. But it is that south side which is massively blocked up right now, so Stalwart needs to start clearing some space.
Well, this was the rotation we've been waiting for. Obviously, for quite a long time, EVOS had been on a back foot, and it felt like they were really uncomfortable on this one. It was the smarter play from Lewis and Co. as they pushed up, took control of the compound after getting away from the fight they had inside of the blue. Now the spacing comes back. Redface was brought back into the action, and they're at least putting the pressure on. Utility is there for them, but because of how much they've had to waste to reset off the back of the previous engagement, you're looking at some dribs and drabs. It seems like across the board, really, if they do not survive off the back of this one and find a way to encroach onto that compound, you're not going to have much to work with. And there is more barrels coming over and honing in on your angles as well. This is looking like we could have a bit of an intense freeway encounter on this. Redface with a dive across, not quite bunny hopping on that one as he is sprayed down.
Yeah, it's a gorgeous shot coming there from CEO later, mid-air with the 6X as well. Not easy to pull off, so very, very good shots from CEO later. And he was a real standout for Malaysia Esports in the multitude of tournaments that they played this year. Alpha 7 also similarly moved up from that south side, looked to really choke down the guys from EVOS at the moment. Meantime, Gladiators are losing a lot of players on their side. I mean, they've been beset upon by Stalwart. Now RC's coming in, Loop's also taking shots. But again, I think they are in a position where they can maybe hold on. But with Tixi taking so much damage there, this is getting real unideal.
No, the longer this fight goes on, the worse it looks. I mean, we knew Falcons had control of the bridge from a very early moment onto this game. They felt confident with the way that the fight started. Loops right up in their grill as well, ahead of each other. So at least it's developing into a clash between four of the squads. Cleaning up now going to be the most important factor. Bullets going down range, connecting back onto Mythic and keeping him in check with the space that he was able to take away. It's rough though. You look at the sort of damage we've established there. Gladiators coming into this one didn't feel like they were really able to spread their wings. Now fully taken out of the mission, so not starting it off nicely on SANHOK. And this just continues. The elimination feed is not stopping.
Yeah, it's all over the place, and it makes sense as well because so many teams now have to cross those bridges, get into very open area, and Stalwart's doing what Stalwart does best, which is hold these angles down, really take a dominant position within the circle itself. I love that Toxi's got headed up towards this compound on the eastern side, gives him a lot of safety. He's providing information back across whilst teams move in, and the rest of the boys in action, Nerzed and Icy, just maintain control of this high ground. It's fantastic play so far. Xavier is sort of forced to use this boot camp position to provide them as much sanctuary for as long as possible. What I will say though is this team that's on our screen right now, Tiamba, we have had a look at them over in a little bit of VODs here and there, and for Tiamba they're a very calculated team, right? I think the macro is very strong. They understand how to get into these games. It's not flashy, but it works. And I like the way they leapfrogged across the river, provided backstops for one another, and finally took out the remaining members from Aegon I8. So this is a good rotate from Tiamba, and surprisingly, they've got all four players still up. So I think this is a good game from them, from what was not an easy position.
Oh, exactly. From the point we first saw them, you know, it already looked so uncomfortable. It felt like you were kind of really staring defeat in the face from the opening moments. Instead, though, they've played out the longevity of the game, not feeling forced, not really rushing themselves into a misplay, and it's worked out. For Falcons, it was a great start, but ever since the boys have started to roll up and apply pressure onto them, they've been crumbling under it. Now quite fragmented as well. Being able to actually bypass up here and not being just absolutely annihilated from the positions that are being controlled all around you is not going to be easy. Six also taking bullets down range as that will connect onto him. Just off towards the side as well. Other hyenas effectively lurking, waiting to engage on this one if they want to, because you can see how weak some of these squads are now starting to look.
Yeah, it's starting to get very, very difficult. And Stalwart has just stolen the show this game. You can see how much of a big number Nerzed's been, because he's a great addition to the squad so far. You know, he has really been putting up some massive work. He is a bit more on the chaotic side, I'd say, compared to Action and Top, who are very good in a clutch scenario. But I think that's what makes him fantastic, right? He will just hold the line for you. Currently, he's just facing off against the entirety of Falcons, whilst the rest of the boys are just dealing with all these other angles, slowly but surely clearing out these spaces. Alter Ego, obviously we saw them in their engagement between Gladiators, they got a little bit luckier. They were able to get down towards Trifecta earlier on. I think it was a smart move to make and have got towards the top 7 because of it. I think the most interesting thing, though, is the way that Icy's played from Stalwart. From compound to compound, he's constantly covering the back of the team. So the communication on these lads, oh, it's phenomenal.
Oh, yeah. From the amount of fights they're actually being thrust into here as well, the way they're being able to contain their angles is ridiculous. But you say his name and you've sprung him into effect as the pin is pulled. And he throws 2 players down to the deck instantly. DX struggling off the back of that one. That's not what you want to be in. Oh, mate. Suddenly, the pressure that's being applied is even more intensified as Icy, yeah, this man is ice cold. There is no sweat on his brow.
It's insanely good, but you also saw that he didn't even try and flush the eliminations. He knew his job, and he performed it perfectly, which is just to hold this position. They know DXavi's got to come out at some point, so he has absolutely rinsed them from this spot. Really, really well done. In the meantime, continues to provide information. His whole job is just to not die. And getting 2 knocks in the process, you know, holding it down, that's fantastic news for him. We'll see if the snake clips him. It does not.
Close quarters though, trying to find his way out of the doorway might be a risky maneuver. Ooh, DBS in the hand. Ooh, for the quick shot. Look at the bounce across, lands it as well with a follow-up. Oh, mate, Icy, he's on one.
That was a fantastic haul from Icy, man. He's been all over the shop there. And, you know, we talked about Nerds at the tops, but look, he had backup. He saw action, though, despite everything, running in from the end to try and help his lad. But, again, it wasn't required. Icy's got this on lock on that top side. Alpha 7, in the meantime, though, as for players, they've been very resilient here. Up to 7 eliminations. Potato, though, he's still going for alter ego.
Potato, can this man punish? Ooh, surrounded at this point, playing to play with the map geometry that he's got, pulling out the SMG. Will it be Sublime? Bullets down, rage quickly. Nerzed still focused on the potential getaway from the last man from Falcons. The DPS as well, looking punishing as Potato gets put back in the ground.
Dear me, right now up to 12 eliminations for Stalwart. They have been absolutely dominant in this first map. Monumental plays coming through backwards and forwards. Duello in the meantime, he's fighting the entirety of Alpha 7. The Japanese squad going hell for leather over here.
As the numbers dwindle, already this intense game leaving us now with what could be the final fight to decide which one gets to taste that chicken dinner coming into Group Green to start us off here. And you're left with a 4 versus 3. Map control, it's got to be said. It is Stalwart. They're playing it to a T, living the name here.
And I mean, the way they've controlled this map as well, you saw they put a lot of emphasis towards this side. They used this outpost before, mainly as a scouting position, but they wanted the high ground when it came to that end game. So everything is part of their grand design here over on Stalwart. Senab looks to go for a peek, but in the meantime, they just realized they're scared, so they're just going to try and move further down. Action with a quick feed, and there's an immediate return from Icy again.
You can see the way they're playing it as well, trying to bait each other out, playing the numbers game, knowing they can trade for one of these players and leaking off each other's contact. Icy goes up close, shattered, as he will go down to the DBS, punishing him with a 1 punch. Low HP though, a not great positional play to work with. Got to pop those heels quick, bullet to the back, shuts down another one. Suddenly we're starting to see Stalwart coming out on top unless one man can make a difference. DBS closes the gap, keeps him in close check, looking for the finishes as well. But this is a rough position to be in, Blank. He's behind the tree and he might be barking up the wrong one.
Just Nerzed versus Mafioso now as the circle begins to close. Nerzed goes for the jump peek.
My God, there it is, coming through in the air. Nerzed shutting it down. And the success coming out, little bit of a celebration as well, and rightly so. I mean, the way that Stalwart played